I am a dog, and this is something I've never dared to tell anyone. My name is Henry now, but I wasn't always Henry. I wasn't always old, wasn't always slow, wasn't always forgotten. There was a time when I mattered to someone, when I had a purpose, when I belonged. But before I tell you about the woman who changed everything, before I tell you about the moment I learned that love can find you even when you've given up hope, I need to take you back to when I still believed that love lasted forever. Because every ending has a beginning, and mine started in a place I thought would never change. Picture this. A golden retriever puppy with eyes full of wonder and a tail that never stopped wagging. That was me. Once upon a time. I remember my first family. The warmth of small hands tangling in my fur. The sound of laughter echoing through hallways. The smell of Sunday morning pancakes drifting from the kitchen. I had a name then too, Buddy. Simple. Hap. Perfect for a dog who believed the world was made of endless belly rubs and games of fetch. I was their protector, their companion, their constant shadow. When little Sarah cried, I'd rest my head on her lap until the tears stopped. When Tom came home from work, stressed and tired, I'd bring him my favorite tennis ball, the one with the torn seam that squeaked just right. And when Mom worked late into the night, I'd curl up at her feet, a warm reminder that she wasn't alone. Those were the golden years. Literally, my coat shone like sunlight. My legs carried me across the backyard in powerful bounds, and my bark could announce visitors from 3 houses away. I was young, I was strong, and I was loved. I had a collar with tags that jingled like tiny bells. A bed positioned perfectly to catch the morning sun. A food bowl with my name painted in cheerful blue letters. I belonged to them, and they belonged to me. It was a contract written in unconditional love, and I never imagined it could be broken. Seasons changed, and I grew larger, more settled. Sarah grew too. From a toddler who used me as a pillow to a young girl who braided flowers into my fur during summer afternoons. Tom taught me to catch frisbees, and I learned to read his moods better than anyone else in the family. Mom and I developed our own secret language of glances and gentle touches. But time is a thief that steals so quietly, you don't notice until it's too late. I should have seen the signs. The way they looked at me when I couldn't make it up the stairs anymore. The whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the room. The new puppy they brought home. So young, so energetic, so replaceable. They say dogs live in the moment, but we feel change coming long before humans acknowledge it. My legs started betraying me first. Where once I could leap onto the couch in a single bound, I now needed a running start. The stairs became mountains. The backyard that used to be my kingdom felt endless and exhausting. My once gleaming coat grew dull and thin in patches. My eyes, clouded with age, couldn't track the tennis ball like they used to. And slowly, quietly, I became invisible. The new puppy, Max, arrived on a Tuesday, golden like me, but smaller, faster, more eager to please. I watched him discover the same joys I once knew. The kitchen scraps, the favorite sleeping spots, the best toys. I tried to teach him, to show him the family's routines, but he learned so quickly on his own. Sarah, now a teenager, was drawn to Max's energy. Where she once braided my fur, she now taught Max new tricks. Tom's frisbee games became Max's domain. I was too slow to keep up. Mom started looking at me with eyes full of something I didn't recognize then, but understand now. Pity mixed with guilt. The vet visits became more frequent. Expensive words floated above my head. Arthritis, hip dysplasia. quality of life. I felt their stress building like storm clouds. Heard the arguments they thought I couldn't hear. "He's suffering," one voice would say. "He's been with us for 12 years, another would respond. "The medical bills are getting too high. Maybe it's time," but they couldn't say it. Not yet. Instead, they found a different solution, a kinder one. They probably told themselves they would find me a new home, someone who could take better care of me, someone who didn't have the financial pressure, the emotional weight of watching me decline. I didn't understand the planning, the phone calls, the way they suddenly started treating me with the desperate affection people show when they know time is running out. I just knew something was changing, and my old bones ached with more than just age. Then came the day I'll never forget. The day I learned that love, even when it's real, sometimes has conditions. Have you ever trusted completely, only to have that trust shattered in a single moment? It started like any other car ride. Tom opened the back door, and I climbed in with the same difficulty I'd grown accustomed to. Sarah sat beside me, her hand resting on my head, fingers working through my fur the way they used to. For a moment, I felt like the old buddy again, loved, wanted, part of the family. The car ride was longer than usual. We passed our neighborhood, our usual routes. I pressed my nose to the window, watching unfamiliar landscapes roll by. Something felt different, but I trusted them. I always trusted them. When the car finally stopped, we were on a quiet road lined with trees. Beautiful, really. Peaceful. Tom got out first, then opened my door. I jumped down, my legs trembling slightly from the effort. This must be a new walking spot, I thought. A special place they'd found for us to explore together. But they didn't attach my leash. "Good boy, buddy," Tom said, his voice thick with something that might have been tears. "You're such a good boy." Sarah hugged me then, burying her face in my neck. She was crying. I could taste the salt of her tears on my fur. I licked her cheek, trying to comfort her the way I always had, not understanding why she needed comforting. "We love you," she whispered. "We love you so much." And then they got back in the car. I stood there, confused but patient. This must be some kind of game, I thought. They would come back. They always came back. I was their dog. I belonged with them. The engine started. I tilted my head, the way I did when something puzzled me. This wasn't how car rides usually ended. Usually, we all went home together. Usually, I was invited back in. The car began to move. I took a few steps forward, my tail wagging uncertainly. This had to be a mistake. They'd forgotten me. They'd realize their error and turn around. I just needed to wait right here, be a good dog, and they'd come back for me. The red taillights grew smaller. I ran then, as fast as my old legs could carry me, down that country road, stumbling over roots and rocks, my breath coming in desperate gasps. The arthritis in my hips screamed with every step, but I pushed through the pain. If I could just catch up, if I could just make them see me. But the car was already gone. I stood there in the middle of that empty road, surrounded by towering trees and the growing darkness of evening. For the first time in my life, I was completely alone. No familiar voices, no comfortable beds, no food bowl with my name on it. Just silence and the gradual understanding that this wasn't a mistake. This was goodbye. I waited there for 3 days, through rain, through cold nights, through hunger I'd never known. And in those 3 days, I learned what it meant to be forgotten. Sometimes salvation comes in the form of a stranger who sees what others have overlooked. By the 3rd day, I had stopped lifting my head when cars passed. I'd learned that not every engine's sound meant rescue, that not every set of headlights carried hope. I was dirty weak, and had begun to accept that this roadside would be my final resting place. But then, a different kind of car slowed down. A gentle voice cut through my despair. "Oh, sweetheart, what are you doing out here all alone?" I looked up to see a woman stepping out of her car. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. But it wasn't her appearance that struck me. It was the way she looked at me. Not with pity or disgust at my matted fur and protruding ribs. She looked at me like I mattered. "You're tired, aren't you, boy?" she said softly, approaching with the patient confidence of someone who understood dogs. "Let's get you somewhere safe." I didn't have the energy to resist, even if I'd wanted to. When she opened her car door and patted the seat, I climbed in with the last of my strength. The seats were covered with dog hair from other rescues, and the car smelled like hope. If hope had a smell, it would be that mixture of dog treats, clean blankets, and the indefinable warmth of someone who cared. "I'm going to call you Henry," she said as we drove. "You look like a Henry to me. Distinguished, gentle, a name with character. Henry, not Buddy, the young dog's name full of enthusiasm and energy. Henry, a name that carried dignity, that suggested a dog with stories to tell and wisdom to share." For the first time in days, my tail gave a tentative wag. She took me to her veterinarian first. Dr. Martinez examined me thoroughly, checking my joints, my teeth, my clouded eyes. They spoke in gentle tones about my condition, about treatment options, about making me comfortable. No one mentioned being put down or quality of life in that clinical, detached way. Instead, they talked about pain management, about soft beds, about the best food for senior dogs. "He's got some good years left in him," Dr. Martinez said, scratching behind my ears. "With the right care, Henry could live quite comfortably." The woman, whose name, I learned, was Margaret, smiled at this news like I was a long-lost relative who'd been found alive after years of searching. That night, I slept on a real bed for the first time in months. Not the hard ground or the cold concrete of roadside stops, but an actual dog bed with memory foam that cushioned my aching joints. Margaret had 3 other dogs, all rescues, all seniors like me who'd been discarded by families who'd grown tired of caring for them. But this wasn't just about finding shelter. This was about rediscovering what it meant to be wanted, to be chosen not despite my age and ailments, but because of the love I still had to give. The most powerful transformations happen not when we become new, but when we remember who we always were. Margaret's house became my sanctuary, not because it was luxurious, though compared to that roadside, anywhere with 4 walls felt like a palace, but because it was built on a foundation of understanding. She knew that senior dogs needed different things than puppies. Patience instead of endless energy. Comfort instead of constant activity. Respect for the dignity that comes with age and experience. She modified her home for us older dogs. Ramps instead of stairs. Heated beds for arthritic joints. Non-slip rugs so we wouldn't fall on hardwood floors. But more than the physical accommodations, she gave us something infinitely more valuable. The knowledge that our best years weren't behind us, they were simply different. I learned to trust again slowly. The other dogs helped. Charlie, an ancient beagle whose family had moved and left him behind. Rose, a senior pit bull who'd been surrendered when her owners had a baby. And Winston, a graying collie who'd been too much work for his elderly owners. We were all refugees from the same kind of abandonment, and together we formed a new pack built not on youth and vigor, but on resilience and second chances. Margaret included me in her daily routines. Morning walks at my pace, not the frantic energy of a young dog. Gentle brushing sessions that restored some of the shine to my coat. Most importantly, conversations. She talked to me like I could understand every word. And perhaps I could, because what she was really saying was, "You matter. Your thoughts matter. Your comfort matters. You are not a burden." The transformation wasn't dramatic or sudden. I didn't become young again. My joints still ached on cold mornings. My eyes remained cloudy, and I still moved with the careful deliberation of an old dog. But something fundamental shifted inside me. I began to hold my head higher. My tail wagged more freely. I rediscovered the simple pleasure of a sunny spot by the window and the profound contentment of falling asleep knowing I was safe. One evening, as I lay beside Margaret's chair while she read, she reached down and scratched behind my ears in that perfect spot all dogs have. "You know, Henry," she said softly, "I think we rescued each other." And in that moment, I understood something profound. I hadn't been saved because I was pitiful or desperate. I'd been chosen because someone recognized that I still had love to give, still had value, still had a purpose. Age hadn't diminished my worth. It had simply changed its expression. As I close my eyes each night now, surrounded by the gentle breathing of my new pack and the steady presence of the woman who saw past my gray muzzle to the heart still beating strong beneath. I am Henry now, and this is my truth. Love didn't abandon me on that roadside. One kind of love ended, but another was waiting to begin. I don't need to run as fast as I used to. I don't need to catch every frisbee or climb every stair. What I need is exactly what I have: a warm bed, gentle hands, and the unshakable knowledge that I am wanted exactly as I am. Maybe I wasn't rescued at all. Maybe Margaret and I simply found each other at the exact moment we both needed to remember that family isn't always about blood or youth or perfect circumstances. Sometimes it's about recognizing the love that's already there, waiting patiently to be noticed. My story isn't over. It's just beginning a new chapter. One written not in the bold, energetic strokes of puppyhood, but in the gentle, purposeful lines of a life well lived and deeply appreciated. I am Henry. I am old. I am loved. And I am home. Because sometimes, the most beautiful stories are the ones that teach us it's never too late for a happy ending. If this story moved you, tap like to share a little hope. At Paws Tales, we tell stories seen through eyes that can't speak, but understand everything. Subscribe for more stories of love, healing, and loyalty.